swear to God.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome Cuson. Joining me, as always, is Brian. Please leave a 4 or 5 star review so as to help people discover the work that we are doing here on the podcast from the Q Podcasting Network. Brian, we are going to be doing something very special for the month of November. We are just a month before our big Christmas special. We are going to be discussing John Woo. It is John Woovember, as you might say. And fittingly, we are going to be discussing The Killer this week. And then we will continue on with what might be the best action movie ever made next week when we discuss Hard Boiled. But this week, we are discussing The Killer. And as it is the first Tuesday of the month, we are pairing it with a match. And of course, it has to be a Ric Flair match, but not just any Ric Flair match, a Ric Flair match from 1989, the same year this movie came out, and against Terry Funk, who is coming out to Sergio Leone. And John Woo soundtracks are heavily influenced by Sergio Leone. So this was a very, very fitting choice. Brian, I know that you were the one that was like, you know what, we're doing John Woo in November.
It's all because of you, Jerome. You and your inspiring text back in August, was it? Or July, where you went on this John Woo marathon and you just inspired me because I was like, I'm the John Woo guy. I've watched The Killer. And then you went and watched Hard Boiled when I hadn't watched Hard Boiled yet. So I was like, okay, challenge is on. And then once you started getting into it, it was like, oh shit, we're on the same, but we're vibing on the same stuff. And then once we did Sergio Leone month, it was
We were
clear.
like John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell in Step Brothers.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength.
I mean, the thing is, like, these movies have not been readily available on home video, either through digital purchase or Blu-ray. And I basically, as soon as they came out on digital, that's when I purchased The Killer and Hard Boiled. So that makes a huge difference. Like, these are movies that I probably would have seen years ago, if not for the fact that they were very difficult to acquire or really expensive. So I am not the type of person who's going to risk getting a Blu-ray that doesn't work or getting a Blu-ray without subtitles. So that is why it's taken me so long. It is not out of malice. I've been wanting to see these movies, and my patience, my wait was rewarded because these two movies are phenomenal, and we will be focusing our attention on The Killer. Basically, when you think of a John Woo movie, when you think of the tropes, the cliches, this is the movie that you are thinking.
High stylized fashion, awesome looking lead actor, and Chow Yun Fat, who looks at that. He's got that look I call the Okada look, where he just looks like a model and always has his hair on point and has extremely great facial expressions. And they even talk about it in the movie where he goes, "You have empathetic eyes." And then that's like the key to all of his performances in John Woo movies is his empathetic eyes, I think, for Chow Yun Fat. And of course, it's
He is
like
the
over the
perfect
top
John
in
Woo
this.
actor. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's so great.
you want to talk about actor eyes. I mean, we're going to be talking about Tony Leung, and he might have the best actor eyes of all time. It doesn't get any better than Tony Leung. And we'll talk about that next week. So we're going to have two of the best eye actors of all time next week.
And speaking of eyes, I mean, the theme of this movie is that,
Yes.
it's about, like joining the mafia, being a killer, and then having this empathy and guilt about it. And then what happens when you're a killer, contract killer? Innocent people get in the way. And then this woman that was just an innocent bystander, he accidentally gets her blinded by firing the gun in front of her face. And now Chow Yun Fat is just so guilty and just so remorseful for what he did that the whole rest of the movie is just trying to get her surgery. And the spoiler alert, she doesn't get the damn surgery, Jerome, and it breaks my heart every time. But it's the lesson, I think, because this is one of
Chow
those
Yun
things.
Fat not only dies but loses his eyesight in the end.
And he planned on donating his eyes too, which is like the really fucked up part. But again, it's this
I
thing
mean,
about I was
the thing about John Woo is there is no male director who does melodrama, which is incredibly funny to me. That Asian movies are not known for their queerness, but boy oh boy, there is nobody who knows how to do melodrama better than John Woo. He is the king of it.
oh, believe me, it's really out there in A Better Tomorrow 1 and 2. And it's like
Oh,
a mix
big
of that,
time.
and you bring it
I
to
mean,
that.
I think
Yeah,
this movie is incredibly melodramatic, but you could definitely say that the Better Tomorrow movies are even more so.
I think that's because they got the brother thing on that one. That's the really heart
Right.
wrenching thing
Yeah,
on
where
that
they,
one.
they got the brother thing
Well,
going.
eventually we'll get to those two movies later on because it's actually a trilogy and it's kind of complicated because Chow Yun Fat ends up being the twin of his, playing his own twin,
Right.
which has become a
I
trope.
have only seen the first one. I didn't watch the second one just because I was like, I really want to watch The Killer and Hard Boiled because I basically did the three movies in a row, and that's how I got. That's how I fell in love with John Woo.
Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, for sure. That's probably the order you should go in, like Better Tomorrow 1 and 2, since it is the order of he made those movies. But specifically to get the vibe of his direction and style, definitely watch those two movies first if you can. But this movie in particular, like we mentioned, like it's copied so much. This movie, like I can almost see like like Robert Rodriguez just watching this beat for beat and copying the action sequences for Desperado. You can see Tarantino just glowing, or like his the light bulb going off in his head about you know don't shoot me, and then you got like three people like with guns at each other, right? Like at the end of
I
Reservoir
mean,
Dogs,
there's a
which happens
Mexican
in here.
standoff. There is a Mexican standoff at the end of this movie, just like a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, it's great, and you can tell like Tarantino picked and choose. It's just like Robert Rodriguez, but I just feel like John Woo is so good at camera work. Like, you know what I mean? Like he picks these shots that are so like they looks like simple shots, but the way he shoots them makes it so epic and dramatic. Like there's this
And
shot.
what I will tell you is that Hard Boiled makes this look like a Kevin Smith movie.
Oh, great! I'm super excited now in terms of the cinematography because this has some excellent cinematography.
And
Like,
to be fair, like again, I want to emphasize like the movie, the cinematography in this movie is incredible, but Hard Boiled makes again it looks like a Kevin Smith movie compared to that.
right? So there's this one particular shot that I got to highlight. It's the other cop. I forget his name. He's a good cop. He's pairing off with Chow Yun Fat, but he's sitting alone in like I think it's the church, and you just have the camera on the ground pointing up to him, and just it's panning about the emptiness of the church, and it's like the calm before the storm, right? Like this calmness before the
There
entire
is
thing goes
nobody who
ballistic.
does that particular. I know exactly what scene you're talking about. There's a very similar one next week. And John Woo is incredible at setting up action scenes. He lets you see the geography. He lets you get into the stakes. That to me is what makes these movies so good. Is the fact that John Woo is able to just sit back and really let you appreciate what is to come. And I don't think a lot of directors do that anymore. And it's really unfortunate because all it does is build the stakes.
And let's talk about Jenny. I think her name is Sally Ye, but she essentially is playing a blind character. But it's clear that she's not a blind person in real life. But the way she plays it is so realistic because I don't. Did you notice she never blinks? Like after the
She's
accident,
really good. I
it
have to
was.
say,
Oh man, like to play a blind person like that takes a lot of talent because you could either play it like stupid and just do the whole thing with the stick and have fun with it, but she played it like a person like who's clinging to like her sight, like because it's about to go, like it's almost like a cornea is about to go, and like she still has flashes of light, but by the end of the movie you realize like it's done, it's her vision's gone, and that's the heartbreak of it because like they keep saying like how
and
come you
I
turn the
do want to
lights
point
off?
out that she is much more known for music than she is for movies. If you look at her filmography, she definitely has a run in the 80s, but then basically she stops in 1991 and is more so known for her music. So that
And
that
she
is
sings the
that's
song. She sings the song in the bar too, right? Like
and
that's
that's what
her, I
makes it
think.
all the more impressive is the fact that she is so good and she's not really known for being an actress as much.
Yeah, and it's just total like heartbreak by the end of the movie because I mean, like this thing about the mob, right? Whenever someone in a movie or TV show tries to leave, it just ends in death. Carlito's Way, Godfather 3, that guy that wanted to move to Florida in Sopranos and Tony said no, ended up killing himself. Like it just never ends well. And I think that's a lot of the themes and kind of in John Woo like gangster movies. Like you get set up with that, A Better Tomorrow.
I mean, he's really
Oh
good at
man,
making movies about male friendship. That's the thing is that like almost to the homoerotic level, and he has kind of denied that. But I mean, it's there if you want to see it. It's definitely there.
and he's even said like if you want to interpret it that way, that's totally fine because he kind of leaves like interpretation to the viewer, which
I
is
mean,
good.
which is fine. I would love to know like if he gave Chris Serum what he really thinks. I would be very curious. But I mean, this
Because
movie,
it to me like if you watch this movie, it's more so like the cops in love with Chow Yun Fat. It's not the other way around. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of see it because he admires him, And that was the whole speech that he gives, like in the middle of the or towards the end of the first act about why he respects this guy that's a killer, and he goes on about his like his empathetic eyes, and I think it's one of those keys that even though Chow Yun Fat plays these killer roles, these assassin roles, you end up sympathizing with him because of his eyes and his emotion and like the way he like tries to only kill bad people, even he
He's
says in this movie,
he's
but it
he
just
probably
never
doesn't
works
get
out.
he probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I mean, he's 70 years old at this point, and he really hasn't like had that mainstream U.S. role in quite some time. But I mean, my God, just I mean, this movie, and we're going to talk about it next week. And you look at the fact that he also is in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like this is a guy that is so unbelievable at what he does, and like it's him and Tony Leung. Like these are two of the absolute best in terms of like this style of acting, and in terms of like Hong Kong acting, like it's he and Tony Leung. Like they to me are the absolute peak, and I just don't know that you can get any better than those two. And obviously, Chow Yun Fat is the one who is. I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say because I feel like because he was in Shang-Chi, Tony Leung is much more well known at this point. But for a while there, I mean, Chow Yun Fat was in way more American movies. Like he was in Pirates of the Caribbean. Again, he was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which kind of crossed over in a big way. So it's really fascinating to me that Chow Yun Fat is kind of the guy who kind of had that breakthrough, and it's gotta be because of this what he was able to do with John Woo.
For sure. And like Bulletproof Monk, Replacement Killers. The thing is that I think he came to the US too late. And I think he lost some of that like sex appeal and he kind of like aged a little bit and he didn't have like the cool hair. Like they cut his hair in a lot of movies. Um and
Yeah,
then
it's really
God
weird. You're right.
and then
They
Dragon
definitely do
Ball,
that.
good God. I mean, I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. And for him to do that was like so bad. And he didn't even look like because he plays a character named Roshi, who's an old perv, basically. Forget the perv part, just an old guy. And they casted him and just didn't like age him. They just had him like be a 50-year-old Roshi, which really pissed off
And
the fan base. So
it's really interesting. I mean, if you look at his filmography, like he has really slowed down. Like he really isn't like the only thing he's done this year is Detective Chinatown 1900, which I guess is a movie that came out in January. Yes, I'm looking up on Wikipedia right now. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's definitely slowed down. He really hasn't done a lot of movies. If you look at his last 10 years, he's only done one, two, three, four, five, six, seven movies in that time. And since 2018, it's only three movies. So, he's definitely slowed down quite a bit. But I mean, you're talking about prime Chow Yun Fat in this movie, and I mean, he's so good. Like he is able to deliver on the melodrama in a way that I don't know that a lot of actors would be able to, or even we would be willing to do.
yeah, he's so incredible, man. And like I mentioned before, that fashion sense that he has in all these movies. Like I think he started like a fashion trend with the sunglasses in A Better Tomorrow, from what I've read, and like that was a big like thing in like China, where like all the dudes in the '80s in China ended up getting those like sunglasses because of, or at least Hong Kong, because of those dope sunglasses that he wore in the movie. So he's very much like a cultural kind of like even a fashion icon at this point, I think, in China at least. So for him to be in this role just fits so well, and it looked like they had some budgetary issues trying to get the money together, which for a filmmaker
I
like
mean, for a
John
Hong
Woo, it
Kong
seems
movie,
about
this
right.
is rather expensive, and I guess it took 90 days to shoot, which I guess is double what is typical.
And I would say the majority of the budget went to the last third of the movie, the 20 minutes in the church or the 25 minutes in the church was just unbelievable. And they shoot it in, I don't know if it's a real church or they just built a building and then set it up that way, but the shootout at the end, folks, is just so incredibly well done. Um, like they lay it like Jerome mentioned, they lay it out for you of like where the outside of the building, the inside of the building, some of the windows, and then it just goes from there. And then people are just bursting through windows, getting shot, like shotguns, Uzis, like machine guns, just
I
all over the
I
place.
don't know that I've seen 10 better ending action sequences in my life, and I don't think this is even his best one.
That's insane.
Like
That's insane.
again,
You're really
I
building up
I
our
I
boil,
I
man.
really I'm sorry, I'm almost like building it up too much, but I mean
I believe you, dude. I believe you.
it's
So
it's going to be something else.
yeah, and then
I'm
there's
truly
some other
excited to
tie-ins
see
I
it.
got to talk about too. Like I'm a big like Wu Tang fan, Wu Tang Clan. So there's this album by Raekwon that was produced by the RZA. It's one of those individual Wu Tang albums, only built for Cuban links. They use a majority of the soundtrack from the movie for the beats of the CD, and it's just so good because it's like it sounds like you're listening to the soundtrack, but you're not. But the way they're rapping, it's like telling a story about how those two come together, Ghostface Killah and Raekwon, how like they're kind of like opposite sides of the track, but they come together because they're very rhythmically coming together and collaborate well together, which is a metaphor for the cop and Chow Yun-fat in this movie being opposite sides of the track, coming together at the end and finding a rhythm together. So there's kind of this connection with like the Wu Tang Clan and of course kung fu movies and like the Shaolin, temple and all that stuff. But he's also a fan of John Woo, and when I found this out, like I don't know, when I started discovering Wu Tang Clan music like 20 years ago, I went on this journey and I found this album and I was going in a row and I was like, man, this is like insane. And it made me watch the movie like a couple months later because I was working at Blockbuster and just one thing led to another, man. So just like the music is so good that it kind of influences other genres. And of course, we know the RZA is like known for taking like stuff from like Chinese cinema, Hong Kong cinema, kung fu movies, and incorporating it into the music. So if you really want to check out a good album by Raekwon. I would say this is more like a Wu Tang effort. It's produced by the RZA, obviously, but the two main rappers are Raekwon and Ghostface. But it's still a great album in its own. So I got to shout that out because of the incredible soundtrack and the connection there. But yeah, just 1989, Jerome. This movie is kind of like not an ode to Once Upon a Time in the West, but has a lot of similar elements. You got one of the main characters playing a harmonica, and in
I did notice that.
1989.
That's. I mean, yeah, the connections are endless. This is also. I want to point out Sergio Leone died in 1989 too.
Holy shit! What a fucking what a connection, folks! This episode is just coming together more and more.
Yeah, I also want to shout out Detective Leung. I think his character. We talk about Chow Yun Fat and how good he is. I mean, without him, like the very ending of this movie where he just like it's so heartbreaking that he gets so enraged and kills the criminal.
It's the
And
seven. It's the seven ending, and then that other movie we saw
yep,
with Michelle Yee, where they just killed the bad guy at the end because that dude was just like,
and
"Fucking,
he is
why are we
so
standing
sad
here?"
at the loss,
Boom.
and he is so sad at the loss of his friend that he collapses to the ground. I got a little bit of Rogue One vibes, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Wait, what'd you say? What kind of vibes?
Rogue One.
Oh, that's yep. I can see that too. I can definitely see that too.
I think Tony Gilroy did a little. He did
Yeah,
a little
but
rip off there, and
the
that's
thing about
okay.
this ending that gets me is that she's still blind, and that I think that's the really heartbreaking part, right?
And she will remain blind now because they didn't
I
get.
think if Tarantino did a remake of this, and we'll talk about the remake in a sec because I heard it's really bad. But if
I
Tarantino
will never
actually did a
watch it.
remake of this, I don't think he would let. I think she would be like cured. I think they would fix her blindness. You know what I mean? Like I think Tarantino's the kind of guy that
I
would
don't.
give you that kind of ending.
I don't know. Because I feel like I think he's okay with a downer ending. I mean, True Romance, his original version of True Romance was supposed to be a downer ending, right? So
I
I
mean,
feel
it's already a downer anyway, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're
not
saying.
really. I mean, like everybody dies, but the main couple lives. So like I don't consider that to be like it's like a lot of people die, but
Well, to
again,
me, the
our two main
downer
protagonists.
part of True Romance is what's his name dying, um, Dennis Hopper dying. That's to me the heart punch of the movie. Well, that's what I'm kind of like referring to, but I get what you're
I
saying on
mean,
that,
I
man.
get maybe, but like to
I
me,
mean,
the
that
whole
was a really,
essence of the movie.
but compared to this, it's like, yeah, like I don't know, man, because it's really hard, like to leave that kind of ending, and it's a sour note. But I think a Chinese audience would vibe with it
I mean,
more than an
they're
American
much more
audience.
likely to embrace it than
Because this, I could just see the studio
American
going
audience.
like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you're gonna leave her blind? What?" What I imagine the studio head doing in America. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to change that like immediately, and we get the Julia Roberts ending with Bruce Willis kind of thing, right? But in this case, it's like a total downer, but it's purposeful, and I think you need that because a movie like this, like, you need consequences. Like, you can't just be an assassin and then just leave, right? You can't just leave the life on a high note, right? with whatever money and just bail. But it's one of those things. It's a life lesson. And every time you see a triad movie or the mafia yakuza movie, it's always like that. Someone tries to leave and it just never works out. So that's kind of the message of this movie, and of course the symbolism with the doves, right, and pigeons, like in the fucking
I mean,
church.
again, this is the movie that gives us the doves, and he would go on to use them a number of times, and it would almost become this trope, this cliche. But I
And then
mean,
the religious
it's
iconography too is really on point in this
like
movie as
part of what I'm
well.
doing right now is I'm trying to think of who would be like an athlete equivalent of John Woo, because I mean, you look at this movie and you look at Hard Boiled, like you're literally talking about two of the greatest action movies of all time. And I mean, look, I like Face Off, but it's a B movie. His recent output has been very poor. The Killer remake I've heard is very poor. I can't imagine a scenario where I actually watch it because I love this movie so much that I don't want to soil my feelings on it by watching an inferior, especially because he is the one who made the inferior remake. Not to mention the movie with Joe Kinnaman that is basically has no dialogue. It's a Christmas action movie that is very bad. I saw that in theaters. I think it's Silent Night, Deadly, or I don't know what it's. I forget it what it's called,
I
but
mean,
it's.
not to mention, what is it? MI2, Mission Impossible 2.
I mean, I think that movie has its. I mean, it's not good, but I think there is a charm to that movie. I would say, but yeah, I mean, John Woo has just he has a really good peak, and boy oh boy, does he have a really rough fall. Silent Night is
Yeah,
the
it's
movie that
just
I was
we'll talk
thinking
about
of.
this probably more towards the face-off discussion, but it feels like America kind of broke him. But that's I'm gonna work on that theory once we get to that point. But right now, let's appreciate his earlier career.
I mean, it's rough. Mission Impossible 2, Wind Talkers, Paycheck. That is rough.
Thank
That's
God
bad.
Face Off is like entertaining because you got Nick Cage in there. If Nick Cage is not in that role, it doesn't work. And Travolta's just
Yeah,
like out to lunch with himself.
that
That's
is
my feeling on
absolutely
that.
the
But
case.
we'll get to that because that's the end of that's the main event, I guess. But because we're going in order, folks. But now with the main event of Clash of the Champions 9, let's kind of set this up. We talked about the harmonica.
Five
Terry Funk's
letters, two
coming out.
words. 5 letters, two
I quit.
words.
Yeah, so he's coming out to the Sergio Leone music. Um, you could argue that this should have been the main event for Starcade, and it sets up this weird ending that makes you think that Luger's joining the JTEX Corporation, which was never even going to be a thing. It's just kind of it sets up Starcade well, but Starcade kind of underdelivers, and that's kind of like the universal, like I've seen that show so many times, Starcade '89, but it does miss the boat or miss the
I've
mark
only watched
by
that
the end
show
of it.
once. It's not great. I mean, Sting and Flair is good, of course, but I mean, you can find a good Sting Flair match on just about any
The problem with the math
collection.
part of it all is someone has to go 0 and
Way
3,
too
and
much. Way too much
they
math.
gave it to
Way too
Muda.
much.
Yeah. You could argue like this like the actual true main event of Starcade because this feels like the big main event of '89 that kind of ends the year, right?
Yeah, this really does. I mean,
Because
this
the year starts with Steamboat and Flair, and it literally transitioned to Funk in that mix. So it's like one giant storyline that turned Flair babyface, and now you got Funk chasing him. Um, and I don't know, they put it on TV, and you could question like, well, why don't they put this on pay per view? I don't know. I truly do not know because this would have been an awesome pay per view main event. But for some reason, they just wanted that stupid Iron Man tournament at Starcade. So everything got
I
kind of. I don't.
I I think that's a Jim Herd decision
That's a
clearly.
Jim Herd, yeah. And it sucks because this is truly like a main event that should have been on pay per view. And I know we all love
I
Clash
mean,
of the
this is
Champions for what it
this is
does, but
probably this is not only my favorite Terry Funk match. This is my favorite Ric Flair match too.
that's a tough one because mine always kind of switches because every time I watch that Vader match, I just get enthralled and
I mean,
invigorated.
I think they're both the same. The thing about Ric Flair, and this is what I think I've said this before. Like to me, in terms of being on the stick on the promos, clearly better as a heel. Like that's where he made his money. But in terms of a wrestler, I think he's actually a better babyface because when he shows that fire, like he is just. I think when he's a heel, I think he does his routine. When he is a babyface, he doesn't do the routine as much, or it feels like it's easier for him to fall out of the routine. And I think this match is a really good example. Terry Funk absolutely does a very different type of Ric Flair match than I think we're used to, and I think that's a good thing, and that's why this match I think stands out because of the fact that it's so intense and so it's violent without being like the type of cartoonish violence that I think we see in WWE and even AEW sometimes. This feels like an intense fight. It doesn't feel like we're using weapons just for the sake of weapons.
And I gotta say, I don't know if it's the audio setup for the building or just the acoustics they had in Troy, New York that night, but these sound like the loudest chops ever recorded by Flair. And I don't know what it is, but I think it's something in that building that made that acoustic sound so like, because if you compare this to other Flair matches, the chops seem like brutal, but you really hear it. If you turn the volume up, you really hear it on Funk. And I don't know what it is. And I'm not saying this needs to be nostalgic. Like, there's literally
No,
like
it's
an
it's
increase in
it's
volume.
it's it's definitely noticeable. I mean, they were. I mean, he's really laying them in there too, and you have Jr. and Gordon solely on the call. I mean, that only adds to the match, I think,
And he's not
because
sober, folks. From what I read, he needed a little bit of orange juice and vodka to get through that show. But that's okay. That's okay because he did a good
it's better than
job.
Bob Caudle. It's weird. I feel like people love Bob Caudle. I am very mixed on him. Sometimes I think he's okay, but sometimes I think he's very not with it. And
When Bob
again,
Caudle's on the TV by himself, it's not that great and invigorating. But when he's with the JR or like Tony, I think it brings the best out of him. Um, Bob Caudle's like a soft-spoken guy, So whenever he's an announcer, like he's kind of setting the angles up, but he also sounds like traditional Southern wrestling, so there's that kind of charm to him. So that's why I like him in like 88, 89 when he's paired up with Jim Ross, I think he just works so well.
and
Um,
this is prime Jim Ross too. I mean, that's the
yeah,
other
yeah, and
you're talking about
this
is
is
Jim Ross, who has honed his voice in Mid South, and he is fully formed. And I mean, you're getting the absolute best out of him. I mean, that's the thing that I think also people don't can easily forget. Like 89 Jim Ross, you're getting the absolute best out of him. 90, 91, 92 WCW is the shits. You're still getting like the best of Jim Ross, and it just like obviously the Bell's palsy plays a role, but like you don't really get this version of Jr. ever again, unfortunately, after '92 because he's in the WWF and they have a very different way of doing things. I mean, and look, he is the voice of the Attitude Era, and there is that nostalgia as well. But in terms of like actually calling a match, like this is one of the best that you'll ever hear from Jr.
Yeah, and I want to also point out there's some like really cool details in the match that you kind of miss out at first. Like if you don't watch some of the angles and some of the build up, you kind of miss some of the spots that kind of stand out. Like when I first watched this match as a kid, I didn't watch a lot of the TV stuff. And so now that I got YouTube, I've been going back and watching like old worldwides, world championship wrestling stuff that's not on the network kind of sets this up. And basically, Funk was like pile driving jobbers on the floor, like weekly, apparently. And he was like being a menace. And of course, that's like one of those no things to do in wrestling. It's like, we're not here to like hurt each other. We're here to compete with each other, but we're not here to like take food off your table. And so Funk kind of like pushed that to the edge where he was like, I'm going to pile drive Flair on the floor again. And he does it in this match. And JR's like freaking out and the crowd is freaking out, and like he doesn't quit. So then it just keeps going and going, and it's like, oh shit, Flair is gonna
Yeah,
have this big comeback, and it
because
sets up
the
the big
essence of
comeback
the
well.
match is it's not about getting the pinfall. You have to actually he actually has to say those lovely words.
Right, and the thing is like JTEX Corporation, Gary Hart is in the corner of Funk, and he's telling Funk like, you better not, like, do not quit, or else we're done. Like it's like you quit, and like financially we're ruined because like you're my main ticket right now, you and Muda. And he quits, and he turns on him, and Funk is selling like a motherfucker. Like at the end, we're like Flair had the figure four on for like God knows how long. He finally quits, and the poor guy is acting like he can't stand up, and then he's getting turned on by his manager. And Flair shakes his hand, which is a shocking thing, and it's like, oh shit, they beat the respect to each other, right? Like that was the whole thing. It's like
That's the whole
again, like
idea.
yeah, like again in the Killer, it's like the cop and the assassin on opposite sides. They get into it a little bit. One shoots the other, and then they end up respecting each other. So in this case, it was kind of a similar vibe. And then all of a sudden, Muda comes out, and then the other, the Dragon Master comes out. They start beating on him. Sting comes out for the save. Crowd goes nuts. Sting puts the Scorpion on someone. Flair puts the figure four on the other guy, and then Luger comes out, and with some stiff chair shots for 1989, by the way, knocks out Sting, brawls with Flair, and then the numbers game just ends up, 4 on
I mean,
2,
the
and then you
way
get
that
the
this
setup.
ends, you would think like the next main event would be Luger and Muda versus Sting and Flair,
Exactly, which would have
but in
been, yeah.
reality, it's the four of them that match up in the
And
Iron Man
it's really
tournament.
weird because when you watch the Iron Man tournament, Muda and Luger really go at it and have a good match for like 10 minutes, and it ends at a DQ. But like you would think, based on this angle, like they would be like, not doing that and like helping each other in the tournament or something like that. But they just ended up turning on each other. And Luger walks out, like I said, with J-Tex, and it seemed like he's joining him. And they even alluded to on a commentary, and I was like, wow, I never picked up on that because like if you would have gone with like let's say Flair versus Muda, right? And Muda's undefeated, and you do that at Starrcade because like Terry Funk's out of the picture, and you do Sting versus Luger. There's your double main event, and it still works out. And you get because when they did Flair and Muda on the pay per view for the tournament, it went 2 minutes because they had to get all these matches done. So it was like, what the fuck? And I still was pissed as a
Yeah,
kid, like when I saw that. But they end up having a TV match, Flair and Muda, like I think a week before the pay per view, which didn't have a good finish. It was decent enough. It just had all this interference bullshit going on with it, and the tournament in the background. So it didn't really have enough legs to be on its own. So it kind of feels like this was this missed opportunity where you could have got that. But still, like this match is a 5-star classic. Like absolutely brutal. There's
again,
no
this is
blood.
my favorite Flair and Funk
Yeah,
match.
no blood because it's on TV. But you did get blood in the first match at Great American Bash, which I think was a no. And I think I have a theory on that for a different podcast. Whenever WCW wrestlers bled on pay per view and the consequences of that, because they were not supposed to, and we got so many blade jobs on pay per view. You got to think about that. But yeah, Flair and Funk, man, they just went at it. And surprisingly, every time I think that this is a world title match, it's not. It's never. It would never was. It was a non-title match. So
Nope, because the idea is that it was too violent to be a world title
yeah,
match
it's a sanction for the world
back when that
title.
was the thing.
Yeah,
I kind of wish
I
we could
quit.
go
It's too
back to that.
violent. Yeah. I mean, they kind of do it with the lights out gimmick in AEW, where if they feel it's too violent, they'll do the lights out special gimmick. But it's kind of rare.
Right.
But yeah, if you got to compare this to like other I Quit matches, like this kind of is more of a
This is
realistic
one of the
fight.
best. The I
Yeah,
Quit. I don't think there are a lot of very good ideas because the psychology of the match is very
right.
difficult.
It's either this, Tully and Magnum. I guess Hangman. Well, Hangman and Moxley was not supposed to be I Quit. That's Texas Death. It turned into a I Quit at the end, and then you got the I Quit match that happened afterward with Darby and Moxley, and those are the only good ones I can think of. Because I'm not a big fan of Rock and Mankind. I just felt that was too, I don't
Yeah,
know, just
Bret
too
Hart and Bob
surreal.
Backlund was pretty bad. I'm trying to
Oh
think
my
of
God, yeah. And technically,
Cena
Austin
and
and
Orton
Brett.
had one that was pretty bad. That
Oh
was
God, I think
blah.
good thing I didn't watch that. And then the submission match in Mania was not, it's a submission match. It's not an I Quit, which gave them the out to do the pass out finish with Austin.
Right.
Um,
I mean,
but yeah,
you can't do the I Quit stipulation because then one of them
because
then
and
somebody's
then
gonna
for
have
an
to
I
say
Quit
I
match to
quit, and
work,
then
you really need a guy that's like a Funk or a Moxley that can brawl and tell a story and be believable in a
and you need
finish.
somebody who is going to be able to say I quit and not have their reputation ruined.
Right. Or they do the out where Tully Blanchard goes, yes, yes, yes. And then months afterwards, I never said I quit Tully Blanchard. And then, which they kind of bring
Byron,
up nowadays too. But again, they forget that Tully never actually said it either. Bubby Ray, Dudley. So if you're going to criticize, remember the original, he didn't do it either because it sets a precedent where you can have a rematch afterward saying, I never quit. I said yes, but I didn't quit. So there's that. But Funk said I quit straight up. And yeah, just a tremendous match. Highlight of '89 for sure, and of course '89 is known for so many Flair. I mean, incredible matches all around.
the
So
Steamboat trilogy,
Steamboat
I mean,
trilogy,
the Great American Bash matches,
or
also
even the
good as
match that
well.
him and Sting against Muda and was supposed to be Funk, but it ended up being I think Dick Slater. That's the
Yeah, I
match
mean
that ended with that was a
yeah,
great match, and it ended with the plastic bag around his face, which that's where that comes from, folks. Terry Funk did it to Flair
almost got
first.
it kicked off at TBS too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it was insane. So
yep.
that's kind of the history lesson behind this match, and incredibly, it ties together so well with the Killer. I didn't realize like the year. I didn't even realize the years was
You
the
nailed it.
same.
You really
The
nailed it.
harmonica, yeah, it all came together well. So on to
All
next week because I'm
right.
really excited for
Oh
Hard
man,
Boiled. Right?
hard fucking boiled. Look, this is a year that I've seen probably two of the best movies that I've ever seen. That being Once Upon a Time in the West, and this. I mean, hard boiled. What we're gonna have so much to talk about. I'm definitely going to be rewatching the final sequence very closely because we might have to spend an extended amount of time just talking about what might be the best action sequence ever put on film.
which is insane. And from what I've read and heard, there's a crazy baby spot coming too. So whenever you got a
Oh
baby
yeah.
spot with violence and guns and blood, you're in for a treat.
All right. For Brian, I'm Jerome. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you again next week.